Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
All right, my friends, what is going on? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo sports talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Big thank you to everyone out there, as always, for watching and for listening, for following and subscribing. You guys truly are the best, and I really do appreciate y'all very much. I'm joined right now by, and I'm going to get it right this week, Matt, because I got it wrong last week. I just, I undersold you a little bit with just the old, not that there's anything wrong with Buffalo Rumblings, but I just said Matt Warren from Buffalo Rumblings, Associate Director in the NFL, SB Nation, my man, Matt Warren. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm a very big deal. So.
How dare I screw that shit up last week? First time you've been on the video side, too, and right off the bat, with the intro. I got to tell you, we were talking real briefly before we get cooking here, before we rolled the cameras and hit record. I'm doing back-to-back recordings. I recorded a Sabres training camp preview episode, which, by the way, will be dropping tomorrow for everyone out there. Mike Harrington from the Buffalo News joined me. It was a really good conversation. You know, Mike, he's not one to mince words. I thought he had some really good takes on the Sabres. And I kind of feel like, Matt, I got to remind people this a couple times a year around this time. This is not just a Bills podcast. As much as we talk Bills, as much as I love the Buffalo Bills, it's not talking Bills, it's talking Buffalo. So we do talk Sabres, a little bit of Bandits here and there, some pop culture stuff, things going around the city, things of that nature. So there's some people, you'd be surprised. They're like, dude, where's the Bills talk? Where's the Bills talk? Well, from time to time, we don't talk Bills. That's not going to be the case today. Thank God.
Yeah, we're talking Bills today.
Yeah, we're talking Bills today. And by the way, I'm so corny and cheesy, and I'll admit this. I got no problem in it. I'm a little bit vain. I just got done doing the recording with Mike, and I had literally about a 7-minute gap before I hooked up with you to do the show. Enough time to go in my room, put on a different hoodie and a different hat, because I don't want to be that guy if people watch the show every day, at least on the video side, who's wearing the same shit back-to-back episodes, who thinks I don't know how to change my clothes. So anyway, a little bit of explanation going on. But here's what I want to do today, and we'll talk a little bit of NFL stuff too as well later on. But it's a small sample size. The Buffalo Bills are 2-0. By the way, was I ever wrong with our predictions? We did predictions last Wednesday when I had you on, and I was wrong. I'll call myself out one more time before we move on. Last week, when I had Matt on the show, I hinted to you that the Buffalo Bills at that time, an NFL record 42 straight games without losing by more than 6 points, was in grave danger of coming to an end. The next day on the show, I flat out predicted a Miami 30-20 victory. Dead ass wrong. A lot of other things. I said Jordan Poyer was going to have a big impact on the game. Kind of sort of did, but not really for the Miami Dolphins anyway. But yeah, I called myself out. I was wrong. But anyway, 2-0 the Buffalo Bills. And we are starting to get, we'll call them smaller sample sizes right now of a lot of trends and stats. And what I want to do today with Matt is kind of go through some of those sample sizes with specific players and stats and get your thoughts on what your confidence level is if you think that they're going to be sustainable. And we'll do this kind of in the form of a little bit of a game. Matt's going to have a thought or two on these numbers, these players, and then you'll give me a number on a scale of 1 to 10, what your confidence level is that these are going to be sustainable or if they're going to drop. So that's what we're going to do today. Let's get going with Josh Allen right away. So 2 games in, Josh Allen, who I think, what was it? Matt, was it 9 straight games last year he threw an interception? I think it was 9 games in a row last year.
It was something like that. It was a lot. Yeah,
it was a lot. And some of them were incredibly ugly. Anyway, 2 games in, Josh Allen has 0 interceptions this season. He threw 18 last year. That's a lot. So that's more than 1 per game. And off the top of my head, I don't know that Josh Allen has thrown a ball this season that should have been intercepted. It's not like I can't recall an Arizona or Miami defender dropping what would have been an interception. So he's been careful with the football, pretty accurate. But yeah, he's got less, or I should say, zero interceptions right now. We'll call the sustainable model because he's not going to go 17 games without a pick. That's just not realistic. I put the number at 10 right now. So I want your confidence level of Josh Allen not throwing picks right now. Is it sustainable? And does he finish the season with, say, 10 interceptions or less?
I mean, my confidence level in that is like a 1 out of 10. And I love Josh Allen. Please don't get me wrong. But only 5 NFL teams had under 10 interceptions in 2023. And the way he pushes the ball down the field on third down, like he's not doing like, you would see Lamar Jackson, who only threw 7 picks last year, I think. On a 3rd and 14, he might throw it short of the sticks and hope the guy gets the first down, where Allen pushes it down the field. So you're just more likely to get some of those, aggressive interceptions that I actually like, rather than those like dump off, or, remember Trent Edwards, captain check down. Some other stats that kind of work against Allen is he's had a 2% interception rate in 5 of his 6 NFL seasons. So if he throws more than 500 passes, which he's likely to do, that's 10 interceptions. And so I just don't see the numbers bearing that out unless something drastic changes. And obviously we've seen Allen drastically change from year to year before, taking that, massive next step. A tiger doesn't change his stripes. And I think he's just going to throw some interceptions coming up here.
That's not only is that a great take, I'd like to add something to that as well. And I agree with you fully. I kind of I don't ever want to watch a play where that results in a Bills interception. Okay. So I got to try to say this the right way. I'm okay with him throwing 10 interceptions because I feel like if he's not, he's almost becoming too much of a game manager, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't need Tyrod Taylor out there. Josh Allen is going to make plays that just wow you almost every week. And in order to do that, you're going to make a couple of ridiculously stupid throws, which he's been prone to throughout his career because of all the great things he does. So if he's not throwing any interceptions, to me, that tells me he's either become the most accurate quarterback in the entire history of the NFL, or that maybe he's playing a little too conservative, like he's not taking chances. So they kind of come with that.
He likes to do like those small window throws too. And like some of those are going to get tipped. Some of those are going to get picked off. Like a guy's going to jump a route that he wasn't expecting. So I think that, plus you have this wide receiver core that's like inexperienced and young. And so maybe you like something happens with a Keon Coleman or a Khalil Shakir where like they cause an interception or like fail to prevent an interception. And again, that's not necessarily a dig on any of those players. It's just likely to happen.
Yeah. I agree with you fully. A little bonus one, by the way. And so we're clear. I kind of sent Matt, a lot of these just so you could have time to actually process your thoughts, just some of the sample sizes. But I might throw 1 or 2 at you that I didn't send you before. It's kind of a bonus, Joshua. So right now, I just looked this up because I didn't know he was ranked that high. Right now, he's got a 124.2 quarterback rating, which is 3rd best in the NFL. Sustainability of staying in, let's just say, the top 5 in the NFL for the year. He's at 3 right now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously accuracy plays into that, the quarterback rating more than I particularly like. That's why you would get some of those games with Trent Edwards having really good quarterback ratings where I didn't think he played particularly well. But especially the way that Allen's been distributing the ball so far this year, he's finding open guys as opposed to necessarily trying to fit it into a specific player or even like, his first read. He's going through his progressions really well. Obviously when he gets a little bit flustered, he has the ability to run it instead of try to force it in. So as long as his completion percentage can stay as high as it's been, and I actually don't know it off the top of my head for this season, like it just feels like he's finding guys that, are pretty, have space and separation other than a couple of those Keon Coleman contested catches.
Let's talk James Cook, and we'll play the sustainability game. Then I kind of want to have a small conversation about him as well. All right, so right now, James Cook is on pace for 1,683 yards from scrimmage, and he's on pace for 1,266 yards rushing. Last year, I think he had like 1,122 or something like that, and he was fourth in the NFL last year in rushing. This year, through 2 games, he's at 149 yards, so he's on pace for 1,266. Let's say the sustainability that he finishes top 4 again in the NFL in rushing, which would be at 1,266. Or let's just say the small sample size is him finishing with 1,266.
Yeah, I mean, I see no reason why he can't stay on that pace, especially as, you know, the weather's going to turn and they're probably going to run the ball a little bit more. We've seen Joe Brady call, more runs and stuff like that. I have, like you said, his numbers last year, you know, he had almost 1,600 yards from scrimmage and more than 1,100 yards rushing. So, I mean, he's going to be in that ballpark even on the pace he's on now. So, I mean, even if he falls off the pace he's on now a little bit. So, I mean, you're talking like 10 yards a game difference between like what he was doing last year and what he's doing this year. So it's certainly not outside the realm of possibility.
Now, give me a number score.
Oh, number score. I'll say for 1,266 rushing yards, I'll say 7 out of 10. So that's me being pretty confident.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Look, I got to tell you, through 2 games, maybe there's one other guy that I want to talk about as well when we get to him shortly. But one of my most 2 maybe pleasant surprises so far this season might be James Cook. Not so much because of the stats, not really because he's finding the end zone. He did that 3 times on last Thursday, which if you're a fantasy football owner and you have him, obviously that is great. But, and we talked about this a little bit this week, earlier this week on the show. I think he's running the football like in a different way than he did last year. He looks fantastic. He's more patient than ever, but he's more decisive when he's hitting the holes than ever. He's not bouncing everything outside. He's willing to take the tough yards. He's making, he's not going down the first time he gets hit. And somebody, PK from the Buffalo Sports Collective, was on the show, and he stole my take because he got to it before I could. But Le'Veon Bell vibes. I'm not saying the dude's the next Lev Bell, but for 4 years, man, Lev Bell was arguably the best running back in football with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's just got great vision, patience, and he just seems like he's hitting the hole a lot harder than last year. I'm seeing some plays that are 3-4 yard gains this year that felt like they would have been no gain or yard loss last year. And again, small sample size. I got to keep hammering that home, but he's also not dropped the ball. Scored a touchdown, you know, on a pass last Thursday in Miami. He just looks like a more complete, polished player. One of those young, ascending players that we talked about going in from this last season and this season that really seems like he's stepping up early on.
Yeah, and you need a certain number of like really good and great and elite players to do big things in this league, whether it's like get to the AFC Championship game, go to the Super Bowl. And if he can make that jump from, you know, top 4 running back Pro Bowler to, you know, superstar, even if it's just for this season or you know, or the very, very short term, they definitely could use that. They could use another playmaker now that they are without Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, for sure. Left tackle, Deion Dawkins, you know, whatever with grades and stuff like that, but he's playing like at an all-pro tackle level early on through the first 2 games. And I've been seeing national media people like from The Athletic and stuff kind of raving about his game. Some film people really impressed with him. So let's just say Deion Dawkins is playing at an all-pro level for the entire season. Hell, let's go one step further. Deion Dawkins, all-pro. First or second team. Well, actually, that's kind of hard because there's only 2 left tackles that are going to make all-pro. Let's just say he's playing at an all-pro level because then you could put him in the top 4 to 5 left tackles, and that would make sense.
Yeah, I think he's definitely going to keep playing at the all-pro level. He's in his prime. He's, I think, doing really, really well. Obviously, he's played well through the first couple weeks, even with a new left guard next to him, which I don't think can be discounted. You know, saying he's going to be all pro over a guy like, you know, Trent Williams, who's been, what has he done, 3 years in a row or something? It's like, I mean, but he did get 2 first place votes last year. And so like that was the second most. Like, I mean, he's in the conversation for like that second all pro spot. And at least, like I said, getting votes like he did last year. His his Q rating's gone up. He's done more national TV appearances. He finally made his way onto the NFL 100, which I know is a different voting block than the all pro voting block. But I mean, still, I mean, as an offensive lineman, like anytime you get recognized, for being good, I think that continues to snowball.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, once you get recognized for being good, even when you're not that good, you end up in Pro Bowls. Reuben Brown would make the Pro Bowl.
We remember Reuben Brown like every
year. Yeah, so Reuben Brown was a good player, but he wasn't good every year, and he still would end up in the Pro Bowl somehow every single season because once his name got out there, that reputation, that's what it would be. Yeah, look, he's been a lot of fun to watch so far. I mean, he's a leader of this team. He's a great character, a lot of fun, but he's playing probably the best football of his entire career so far.
Did you try his cereal yet?
What's up?
I saw you bought it. I saw you bought his cereal. Did you try it yet?
Yeah, hold on. No, I didn't try it yet, but I did buy it. So it's good. It's up in my studio right now. Like, I don't know if you can see it behind me. I got like 5 different cereal boxes of former players, but
I've got my Allen, my Josh Allen, my Josh Shacks are right there behind me. But I live in Batavia, so I'm like 45 minutes from the nearest Wegmans. So I need help to get those, or I need to, make a special trip.
If you're watching this on the video side, by the way, I'm sorry, Joe Marino, Locked On Bills. You got a great book here, Go Bills. Usually in the background, but today Deion Dawkins is going to be in the video background. Yeah, I got a couple of Josh Shags as well. All right, so Keon Coleman, through the first 2 games, and this surprised me a little bit when I saw this stat. He has led the Bills, all Bills receivers in snaps, not one, but both games this season.
By a lot.
By a lot, too. He played 91% of the snaps in Miami on Thursday night. Offensively, no production whatsoever, only 1 target, no catches, but I'm not really talking about that right now. I guess Keon Coleman leading the team in wide receiver snaps this season. What's your sustainability score when it comes to that?
I'm at a 7 on that one too. I think it's, kind of likely. After the first game, I thought that they might get Curtis Samuel involved a little bit more. Maybe his, turf toe that kept him out during some of the training camp was still lingering. Mm-hmm. But I mean, he's been at like 20-something%. He was the guy that I was expecting to see a lot of snaps. Khalil Shakir is another one that I expected to see just a ton of 11 personnel snaps, and he's been out snapped by 20%. So I mean, unless something big changes, relatively soon, we've seen them go with Coleman just a ton of snaps, as you said. And so I think it's, kind of likely. So I went 7 out of 10.
Okay. As long as the Bills are effectively running the football and winning, I think this will stay. Khalil Shakir, as good as he is, and I love me some Khalil Shakir, he's not a good blocker. He's not the best blocker. Let's just put it that way. So, if they know they're running the football, he's not going to be out there quite as much. Shakir, like you said, he's battling back from turf injury. I don't want to call him a gadgety player because that's selling him short. He's not Isaiah McKenzie. He's more than that. But, he's not going to play all that many snaps. Matt Collins, I would think would be up there, and he probably will be up there at some point because he is a good blocker. But, yeah, it's weird because Keon Coleman has had, he's kind of a tale of 2 games, even if it's only 2 games in. And he looked really good in Arizona, and he did not, quite frankly, look really good in Miami. And I'm not just talking about not getting open. I'm talking about separation, but also run blocking. I kind of went and watched the film and wasn't that impressed with him. But I am surprised. That was one of the more surprising things I saw, that he is actually leading the team in snaps for wide receivers both games.
Yeah, absolutely. I was expecting Shakir and Coleman be flipped, and Shakir get the 80 and Coleman get the 60. And then with Hollins and Samuel, them to be flipped, and Hollins would be like your 20%, 25% guy, and Samuel to be your other 60% guy. So it's been very interesting, the usage so far. It certainly doesn't mean they can't change it up going forward here and present, multiple different types of looks to teams coming up. And, they'll be playing the Ravens coming up here. That's obviously a big game. So maybe they're saving some of that stuff for that. Maybe they're saving it for the Chiefs, or the second time they play the Dolphins, or, the second go around the division, whatever. So there's a lot of time left.
Yeah. Pass catchers collectively. The Bills have had no problem scoring the football, obviously, in the first 2 games. And they've done it without any specific wide receiver having a big day. Like Keon Coleman had, I think, 4 for 51 in week 1. Khalil Shakir, I think, had 4 or 5 catches in Miami. But we're 2 games in, and Khalil Shakir, I think, is leading the team, but he's only got 8 receptions so far this year. Nobody's got 100 yards receiving for the Bills in 2 games. No one's got 90 yards receiving for the Bills in 2 games. So the small sample size I present to you for your score and review is no pass catcher ends up having 75 catches this season or more than 850 yards.
Man, I'm pretty low on this one.
Yeah.
But like, it's so remarkable. Only, like, I looked this up. Only 5 teams didn't have one pass catcher go over 850 yards. One of them was the Packers, and they obviously had a successful offense last year. But the other ones were just, it was the Cardinals, Broncos, Patriots, and Giants. So we're talking about 4 of the worst offenses in the NFL last year that didn't have someone go over 850 yards. But, the Bills really haven't had that like one reliable person so far. Like, the Chiefs have, we're wide receiver by committee, but they have Travis Kelce, their go-to guy. And so when you look around, like, a lot of people thought Dalton Kincaid would get like 100 catches or 120 targets or whatever, and his usage, even when everybody was healthy last year, did not line up with that. And so I think that the way that the Bills are doing their snap counts, I think it's going to be really, really close. So I'll say 50-50. I'll say 5 out of 10 or 6 out of 10, 5.5 out of 10. There we go. 5. I don't know.
I'm gonna go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
It's 4.5 catches a game and 50 yards per game. And Shakir's the only one that's even close right now. So I think it might actually happen that it will be under those.
I'm going to, my confidence level is a little bit lower, which for people, are we saying this correctly? Because that's me telling you that I do think somebody's going to have 75 catches at 850 yards. And I think it's going to be Khalil Shakir. I don't think it's going to be Dalton Kincaid. I mean, we're 2 games in. I kind of look at Dalton Kincaid right now, and again, small sample sizes. I got to keep saying that over and over. It seems like he's a secondary part of this offense right now. Like James Cook ain't going nowhere. He's running the football. I feel like Khalil Shakir is the guy that Josh trusts the most right now to make a play. Now, not dumping it off, quick little bubble screens. I'm talking about getting down 10, 15 yards on the field, work in the middle of the field, moving the chains. I like Shakir a lot more when it comes to that. I think Dalton Kincaid's going to have some big weeks. Like, he'll have a couple big weeks, but I think you're going to have a handful of weeks where he has 2 catches for 26 yards. Not because he's not good, but because I don't think the Bills need him. Look, as fun as these first 2 weeks have been, the Bills are not going to be playing out in front all season long. They're not going to be able to run the ball as effectively and as often as they are. Josh Allen's going to have to win some games with his arm. That's just the way it goes. And when they start having to get in that mode, I could see 5 games where Khalil Shakir has 7 or 8 catches in each of those games for 70 to 90 yards, maybe even a little bit more once or twice as well. So I think he's going to be a weapon that as the season goes on and the Bills passing game has to open up more. I think Shakir is going to be the one who really he eats. Everybody eats, but Khalil's going to eat more. He's at the head of the table, my table anyway. He's going to eat the most.
Right. And at least I think his snap counts are going to go up, not down. And so to your point, I think he's going to get more opportunities. Kincaid, it was funny when I saw a lot of folks on, the Twitter game film showing Kincaid being the focus of the Cardinals defense. And so maybe all that offseason talk about how important Dalton Kincaid was going to be, like, kind of led teams to start to take him away early on. And as the offense opens up a little bit more and, the other people start contributing a little bit more and it breathes, I think maybe they'll start to gravitate a little bit more away from Kincaid to give him, a couple one-on-one opportunities, even some double team opportunities where there were times when he was like triple teamed on some of those, third and medium plays against the Cardinals.
One more, then we'll take a quick break here. So the Bills are averaging 32.5 points through the first 2 games. I'm going to set the standard of sustainability at 28 for the season. The Bills average 28 games per the season, which would only be about a 4-point drop on what they've done through the first 2 games.
Oh, I'm going like 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 on this. They hit it in 2020. They hit it in 2021. They hit it in 2022. That's 28 points per game.
Yeah.
And last year they were at like 26.5. So just under it. Like, you're talking what? a point and a half per game. So, I mean, not even 30 points. So, I mean, it's 4 touchdowns over the course of the year. I think they're going to get to 28 points per game. They're one of the 4 best offenses in the NFL. I think they're going to do it. So 8 or 9.
All right. I'm with you there too, as well. Quick break. I'm going to move around to the other side of the ball. I told you that I had 2 pleasant surprises this year. We're going to talk about one of them right after this break. All right, I am back here with Matt Warren, and we are going over some Bills early sample sizes and trying to figure out what level of confidence we have that they're going to be sustainable throughout the season. Von Miller's got a sack in both of his first 2 games right now, so 2 sacks, 2 games. Von Miller finishes with, now look, he's on pace for 17. That's ridiculous. Von Miller finishes with double-digit sacks.
I'm going 2 out of 10 on this one. I'm pessimistic on this. He hasn't had 10 sacks or more since 2018, which feels like a lifetime ago. And so I don't see it happening, even though he's got Greg Rousseau that's going to be helping him on the other side. I mean, Von Miller's probably not going to be double teamed as much as he was, in those intervening 5 years. So, I mean, he's got a chance, which is why I'm giving him like a 2 out of 10. But I don't know if he's going to get the snap counts for that. And I just don't know if he can get to the quarterback that much. That would be a really big ask of a guy that's his age.
Okay. So I said I had 2 surprises that have been pleasant surprises for me for the Bills this year. One of them is James Cook, and we already talked about him. The other one's Von Miller. Yeah. Von Miller is playing with juice. He's playing with speed. He is we've seen a variety of moves just in the highlights. You ain't got to break down the film. You ain't got to watch all 22. You've seen spin moves. You've seen a bull rush. You've seen the hand moves, and you've seen just straight line speed with him right now. Various ways to get pressure on the quarterback. Juice, enthusiasm. He looks like he's having fun again. Like he's confident again. And he looks like a completely different player to me through the first 2 games. I say a pleasant surprise because I didn't anticipate that. I thought he might be just a pure 3rd down pass rush specialist that you might see a little flash here and there. I think he's been a weapon for the Bills. Only 2 games, small sample size, but he has been a weapon so far for the Bills. You said a 2 out of 10?
I did.
I'm going to bump it higher, bro. I'm going to say a 5 out of 10.
Okay.
I think as long as he can stay healthy, and the Bills will have enough leads, I think it's sustainable for him to hit double-digit sacks, even though he hasn't gotten it, to your point, since 2018. I just sense one other word, too, I'm describing Von Miller, hungry. I think he's hungry. I think he's embarrassed by how he came back and how he looked last year. And we talked about that a little bit in the offseason. And I think you're seeing it on the field right now. This is a different Von Miller if he can stay healthy. If he stays healthy, 5 out of 10. And, of course, his health will factor into how he performs. All right, his battery mate on the other side, Greg Rousseau, 3 sacks in week 1, none in week 2, but he's got 3 sacks in 2 games. He finishes with at least 11 sacks. His career high, I believe, is 8 going into this season. Him playing well, not really much of a surprise. I think we both considered him a strong breakout candidate. But anyway, let's score him out. 11 sacks for this season, based on what you've seen so far.
Yeah, I'm going higher with this one than I did with Von Miller for sure. I'm going I'll say 6 or 7. I'll go 7. Okay. I think having 3 through 2 games is obviously very strong. If Miller's going to keep playing as well as he is on the other side, I think folks are going to test the Bills' pass defense now that the back 7 is still in flux. And obviously, like you said, the Bills are going to be up in a lot of these games. I think there's a pretty good chance he can get to 11 sacks. And I didn't look up how many players got to 11 sacks last year. Sacks are such a weird statistic too, because pressures is way more important than sacks. Like if you're actually bringing him down, like if you're making him throw it away after 2 seconds, as opposed to him holding on to it for another half second, and now you have a sack. It's a weird stat sometimes, but I've seen enough great plays in the backfield out of him this year that I'm willing to go 6 or 7 with him. So I'll say 7.
I agree with you 100%. Let me add one thing as well with Greg Rizzo. Even if he doesn't get to 11 sacks, it doesn't mean he's not having a great season
Yeah.
because he sets the edge so well. He does so many things so well. And here's one other thing. I just sung Von Miller's praises, correct?
Yeah.
Part of the reason why all these highlights you've seen of Von Miller with the bull rush move, the spin move, this and that, guess what it is? It's one-on-one. You know why it's one-on-one? Because Greg Rizzo is the guy who's going to get the tight end chips, the wide receiver chips, the running back coming to get a shoulder pad on him. And Von Miller is getting these one-on-one opportunities because Greg Rizzo is the best player on this defensive line. So I want to point that out, that even if you don't get to 11 sacks, it doesn't mean he's just a pretty good player. No, that means he still could be having an outstanding season. And the sack number, Jerry Hughes, just consistently was a good player for the Bills, but never got sacks. Greg's already got 3, which is cool, of course, but kind of like him along those same vibes. Couple more of these. Not anyone specifically, but the Bills have obviously been decimated now with linebacker injuries. Milano's out to at least December. Terrell Bernard hopefully will be out for maybe a month or so. Dorian Williams has started this entire season, both games. Braylon Spector had to come in the Miami game, and I thought he actually played pretty goddamn well in that game. The linebackers have been perfectly fine so far through 2 games, despite multiple major injuries. Hell, let's throw Teron Johnson in there. He's a linebacker too, as far as I'm concerned as well. So Cam Lewis has stepped in and done a great job there. Linebackers being perfectly fine despite the major injuries. What do you got?
I'm pretty low on this one. I'll say I don't know, 2 out of 10. I don't know. You're going to see the Ravens in 2 weeks. They've got not just Derrick Henry, but Mark Andrews, Zay Lively. They've got the personnel that's just going to go right through the middle of the Bills defense, like a hot knife through butter in a couple weeks, in my opinion. So whether it's Lamar, whether it's Derrick Henry, whether it's those tight ends that I talked about, they got the Jags this week and, ETN. They've got the Texans coming up right after that with Joe Mixon, who, was the offensive player of the week in week 1. I just think it's going to be tough for them to continue to sustain success as there's more film on them, as there's more of a game plan effort to attack those guys. So I think it's pretty low that we'll think the linebackers are perfectly fine by the end of this 1 month stretch with both Milano and Bernard out. Hopefully 1 month stretch.
You know what? You're right 100%, by the way. Of all the stuff we talked about today, this is where I have the least amount of confidence that something's going to be sustainable. And it's not a knock against Dorian Williams. It's not a knock against Braylon Spector. It's not a knock against Cam Lewis. It's just, you're talking about 2 all-pro caliber players and an ascending really good linebacker in Terrell Bernard. You're not replacing those guys with Williams, Spector, and Cam Lewis for the long haul. I mean, they got some good early returns here, but teams are going to start to figure that out. As much as as unimpressed as I am with the Ravens, that kind of matchup, big physical running backs like Henry, Lamar being able to throw the ball, the 2 tight ends like you talked about, it's going to be a really, really tough stretch. And I don't think it's fair to them. Maybe perfectly fine wasn't the best wording either. If I would have, all right, so perfectly fine, even okay, is really low. If I would have said adequate, your score probably goes up a little bit. They're not going to kill the Bills, I don't think. Well, maybe they will actually a couple games. I don't know. Adequate, though, might sound a little more realistic than perfectly fine.
I think they're going to, they're not going to make huge mistakes. They're not going to, I haven't watched them enough to say that they're not going to overrun a play or they're going to do the thing that they're being trained to do. Bobby Babich coached linebackers last year, and he's the defensive coordinator. So they have a connection to the defense as a whole, and obviously we've seen Sean McDermott coach up the back 7, very, very well over the course of his career. But it's just we've also seen the linebacker core get shredded when Matt Milano's out and you put in an AJ Klein or something like that. So I don't know if we can scheme around it for the medium term, which is what they need. They need at least a month.
Sure. And you know what? Maybe upon some real-time reflection here, maybe I don't even need to put Teron Johnson in there because he could be back in a week or 2. It's feasible.
We don't know.
As we're dropping this on Wednesday, we'll get a practice report on Wednesday, and maybe we'll see where we might get some information, at least where Tehran might be at. And plus, again, Menard's out a month. So maybe if we're talking about a month stretch, maybe they could be all right. But yeah, I'm not confident in them. Go ahead.
They play on Monday, so they don't even need to release an injury report until Thursday.
Oh, that's right. It is a Monday night game. So yeah, well, they will probably
official.
Yeah, you're right. Official. You're right. I think we'll still know a little bit though. If you're watching this Wednesday morning, sometime Wednesday, we might know a little bit about Johnson. All right, two more here. Damar Hamlin. He's starting at safety. I think he's been okay. He hasn't hurt the team and really done much, but he hasn't like been a stuck out like a sore thumb. And I guess for now that's good enough anyway. But Damar Hamlin remains the starting free safety, even with Mike Edwards and Cole Bishop healthy now and in the wings waiting. So what's your sustainability that as long as he's healthy, Damar Hamlin remains the starting free safety?
I mean, I think the probability that he starts all 17 games is relatively low. So I'll say, I don't know, 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10. Cole Bishop, they drafted Cole Bishop to take over. Whether that's this season or next season remains to be seen. But he's obviously back. He was active for this game in week 2. I anticipate him, playing his way into the lineup, especially with the defensive backfield injuries that they have. So, I mean, I'll say it's all 17 games. I'll say like, what did I say? 3 or 4. But if we're going like for the next month or 2, I think, it's probably reasonably high. It's probably like, 6 or 7 for the next month. But then after that, a little bit, it continues to dwindle as we get to the bye week and beyond.
This is, again, and we're having some fun with this because there's small sample sizes. If we were to do this week 7, after the Bills play, starting with Jacksonville. So you got Jacksonville, Baltimore, Houston, and who's the last one that's escaping my mind right now? The Jets on Monday Night Football. Yeah. After those next four games, this won't just be a small sample size. You'll know a lot more about Damar Hamlin and if he's going to be a fixture in this starting lineup or not. I kind of feel like at some point, maybe it's not even so much that he stinks. I think Cole Bishop might play his way into this lineup at some point. We'll see. Here's a bonus one that I didn't give you ahead of time as we end this portion of the show. All right, so if Greg Rousseau's not the breakout star, and the only reason why he wouldn't be is if you already thought, you already expected that. Christian Benford might be that guy, dude. He has been incredible these first 2 weeks. He's got an 81.3 PFF rating, which is 8th best among corners. Sustainability will be, let's say he stays among the top 10 corners in the NFL this year, because right now he's 8th, and he's looked good doing it.
Yeah, that's a very the top 10 corners in the NFL. If you're saying like he's going to keep playing really well, I'm probably at like an 8 or a 9. I think that's why they didn't extend Rasul Douglas this offseason, is they were waiting to see whether they wanted to give Christian Benford money or if they wanted to give Rasul Douglas money. But so like if I think he's going to keep playing at like a really high level, I'm going like 8. If he's going to be a top 10 cornerback, maybe I'm closer to a 5 or a 6. Like there's so many other things that are going on in the defensive backfield. Obviously we only had to see Tua for 3 quarters as opposed to 4. They still have games against the Chiefs, Brock Purdy, the Ravens, stuff like that. So, I mean, I'm pretty confident he's going to keep playing at a high level. I'll say that.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm pretty confident in saying that Christian Benford is going to get paid next offseason. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
He is good. He's a sticky corner. He looks really good on film. And I'll tell you, he had a hit on Tyreek Hill early in that game near the sidelines, and Tyreek felt that hit. And I'm telling you, it affected him the rest of the game. I am a big, big, big Christian Benford fan. All right, so that's like I said, some Bills sample sizes around the league real quick here, because again, Matt's just not a Bills guy. Now you're doing SB Nation stuff, just football in general. We're 2 weeks in. What are you most and least impressed with, whether it's a player or a team or whatever direction you want to go after the first 2 weeks?
I screwed up, by the way, with Christian Benford. I thought he was a free agent after this season, but he's got 2 more years.
Yeah, he's still got one more. Yeah. No, he's going to get an extension. Yeah, dude, the Bills are going to have. Well, Rasul Douglas is a free agent after this year. Not a lot of big money decisions for pending unrestricted free agents now that they locked up Spencer Brown. But yeah, Benford might play his way into being a priority. But yeah, first 2 weeks in, what's impressed you the most and the least around the league?
Sure. I think you have to start with the Saints here. Them absolutely rolling the Panthers. Like, you could see that one coming maybe, but like them just absolutely taking it to the Dallas Cowboys, I think was really impressive. And so to see what they've done through 2 weeks when, like, I don't know, I just felt like they were kind of like aimless after Sean Payton left. They've obviously got all their salary cap issues. It's not the way I would run an NFL franchise, but whatever they're doing this year is working under Dennis Allen. So they've been impressive. I think the Bills and the Saints are like the 2 teams I look at around the NFL that really have had their feet under them from the beginning. Tampa Bay has been another really impressive team that, has shown grittiness in their wins, not kind of the same impressive wins that like the Bills and the Saints had. But,
Detroit on the road though, man. Detroit on the road.
Exactly. Yeah. And so like that kind of like close win, come from behind win, like the grittiness of, well, Baker Mayfield obviously is bleeding into the rest of the team as far as that goes. And so I've been really impressed with what they've been doing. I'll say those are the 2-3 teams I've been most impressed with.
I'll tell you the teams that most impressed. I am impressed with the Bills. I mean, we got to start there. To go on the road on a short week with the injuries that they've had, to have your middle linebacker go down in the first quarter of a game, have your quarterback playing with 2 bad fingers and to smack Miami like they did, that's impressive. And I'll tell you what, that week 1 victory over Arizona looks a little more impressive after seeing what Arizona did to the Rams just this past Sunday. So yeah, the Bills to me are right there. Least impressive. I watch, so everybody loves to watch the Red Zone, and I usually do as well. But this Sunday, I kind of flip back and forth between 2 games. I watched a lot of the Ravens game against the Raiders, and I watched a lot of the Jets-Titans game. And the Ravens, to me, I was not impressed with them. Their offensive line, at least early in the season, because we're talking today's theme is small sample sizes, their offensive line has sucked so far this year. I mean, they're not blocking anybody. And you know they can play defense, but their passing game's not that good. I know Derrick Henry's a big name, and he'll make some plays, and he'll have some weeks, but he also is not the same Derrick Henry that he was 4 years ago. I see a difference there. Lamar Jackson, I'm just not impressed with them. And I kept watching that game, and I'm like, they're going to mess around and lose this game. And then they did. And now they're 0-2, by the way. Yeah. So I'm not impressed with them. And even though the Jets won, and I'm not saying this because I'm a Jets hater, and I am, and I hate Aaron Rodgers, but I'm just not impressed with them either, man. Look, Aaron Rodgers is not going to be better than he was before he hurt his Achilles. Now, he doesn't need to be at MVP level because they do have a good football team. But their offensive tackle, they're not really blocking very well either. The Bills' offensive line, we didn't even talk about other than Deion briefly here. The Bills' offensive line has been really good so far. One of the more underrated aspects of this football team. I don't see that right now with the Jets. Jermaine Johnson is a very talented defensive edge. He's done for the year. He hurt his Achilles now. Who the hell knows what's going on with Reddick? So the Jets got some issues, but easily for me, the least impressive is the Miami Dolphins. I think we're 2 weeks in, and I think they're close to being toast already. They should be 0-2, by the way. They're 1-1. I think that's a team that lacks leadership. It's a team that I think their coach on some levels is a fraud. I talked about this a little bit on the show yesterday. As impressive as the Bills are, the stat that, look, dude, 43 games. At some point, you got to have a stinker, right? At some point, you just don't have it, and you get beat by 10 points or whatever. Miami's stat, they are 1-11 against teams with winning records in their last 12 games. That is insane. That is a trend. That's a pattern. That's not an anomaly at this point. That is an indictment on their head coach and to some levels their quarterback, which, speaking of, I'm keeping this purely football today. Who the hell knows when and if he's going to be back? Where are you going with Skylar Mitchell? Like Miami by week 6, week 7, if Tua's not back and playing well, the way that team's looked, they might be out of it before Thanksgiving
before
now.
it even gets cold and they can't play in the cold. So
exactly.
yes.
They won't even have a chance to fall apart late in the season because they're not going to be around late in the season.
To your point with the Dolphins, like, the Jaguars have looked absolutely lost. And so when we're talking about teams we're least impressed with, the Jaguars are on that list. They were up 17-7 on Miami with 17 minutes left in that game and couldn't close the door on Miami. Miami scores 2 late touchdowns to win that game, or I can't remember if it's touchdowns or just 10 points, but they scored late to win that game. And so they've been certainly one of the most disappointing teams, the Jaguars, I mean. And so to your point, even Miami didn't really beat what I would call an impressive team at this point. And then they, for as much as we talked about how Tua left that game, it wasn't like it was like in the second quarter or the third quarter and they had their backup quarterback play for most of the game.
Yeah,
Buffalo was up 31-10 at the point that Tua got hurt, and that was in the fourth quarter. So the Bills absolutely manhandled it. That's what made Tua so desperate. So I mean, I agree with you on the Dolphins take.
Yeah. I with the Jaguars, by the way, I mean, the Bills are playing them this week. We're going to get out here in a second, but
yeah,
I think I saw a stat. Trevor Lawrence has lost 7 straight games now. That's pretty wild. Yeah. They're playing like shit. I saw a clip with Doug Peterson press conference after their loss this week, and he looked demoralized. He looked dejected. He didn't really have any answers. He looks like a coach who has no answers right now. That Miami game, by the way, they're a yard away from putting them away. They're up 17-7, and ATN gets hit at the goal line and fumbles.
Right.
Javon Holland made a play. Did Javon Holland play against the Bills, by the way? Didn't even play against the Bills. Did Zach Zylers play against the Bills? These star players are for Miami. Did they? Jalen Ramsey played because he got cooked by Ty Johnson on that 33-yard
We know
run.
that, yes.
I'm seriously, I'm as fun as it is to be a Bills person and talk shit about Miami, I also feel like I'm being objective here. I really do. Disappearing acts from these guys every time they play the Bills, every single time. But to the Jags, real quick here. I'm scared of this game. And I will preview it later in the week, but we'll talk about this for a minute. I'm scared of this game because I just believe in patterns. The Bengals just seem to have the Bills number. The Bills, you can count on the Bills outplaying the Chiefs for a lot of a game and being in it at the very end. Who knows if they're going to win it or not, but that's a pattern. The Bills playing like shit against Jacksonville kind of feels like a pattern. They did it last year. They were awful. And now, look, it was London, lots of, circumstances, 2 major injuries on the first drive of the game for the Bills, Daquan, Matt Milano. But they also, I'll never forget this. In fact, we talked about this, I think, last week, actually. Yeah, it was Thursdays when I had you. Yeah, unbelievable. They lose 9-6. Sean McDermott's only 1-3 against this team. That's another little bit of a trend to scare me. Plus, they are a wounded animal. They're 0-2. If they go to Buffalo and they lose and they're 0-3, their season playing in the same division as Houston, their season might pretty much be over. So they're going to be playing. They know they got to win the game. Now, I said that last week in Miami. It's like Miami's got all these things. They know they got to be able to get over the hump to beat the Bills, and they got shellacked. Could be the same thing on Monday, but I don't know. What's your early, and we're midweek here. What's your vibe going into this game?
I mean, I'm scared of the Jacksonville pass rush. It feels like how Kryptonite, where the literal place where Superman was born can sap his energy. It feels like Josh Allen Hines has that with Josh Allen. For whatever reason, maybe it's the name cancels it out, and Josh Allen can't be Superman against Josh Allen, the other one, Josh Allen Hines. So for whatever reason, that's been one of the things that's really worked well against the Bills. But the Jags offense is such a mess. I just think if the Jaguars are going to win this game, it's one of those 12-7 games or something, like the low scoring game with Urban Meyer's Jags a couple of years ago. So it just, their offense is so bad that it would take one of those Bills falling flat on their faces offensive performances, which we have seen before, for that to happen. And the pass rush of the Jaguars is scary, legitimately.
And it really is. And they have done a great job when they play the Bills of getting pressure on Josh Allen without blitzing with just 4 guys. Last point that pops in my mind, because I don't think you're wrong, but it just blows my mind. We agree. The Jags offense is at best bland, at worst just terrible right now. And you're like, all right, You got the first overall pick in the draft, Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. You got a first rounder in Travis Etienne, a guy a lot of Bills fans clamored for with the draft a couple of years ago. You just traded up. I believe they traded up to take Brian Thomas Jr. in this draft, whether they traded up or not. They got Brian Thomas Jr. in the first round of the draft. Evan Ingram, who, by the way, is hurt, which would be a big blow to them if he doesn't play. You got him. You spent good money to go get Gabe Davis. You spent good money to go get Mitch Morse. And yet this offense and they got Doug Peterson, who's allegedly a good offensive mind. Yet this offense kind of stinks. It's really weird, man. It feels to me like a case of they need a change of scenery at head coach. Kind of getting those vibes.
Yeah. JP Acosta, who writes for us at SBNation.com, Jags fan, essentially wrote that article. Like, that they have Trevor Lawrence answering after the game saying, that they need to figure it out without giving any specific answer. They've got, skill position players saying, we've got guys that are talented, but do we have guys that are working hard? It's like, holy crap. Like when you start saying stuff like that, 2 games into the season, like that, the vibes are not there for the Jaguars right now. And obviously they have an extra day this week to do that, but they're also coming to Buffalo. And so, I don't know if they have the extra day. Like obviously Buffalo had a mini bye. They don't just get the extra couple days from Thursday to Sunday. They get Thursday to Sunday and Monday. So the Bills really do need to I don't know, put the pedal to the metal at this game and not let Jacksonville get like that shred of confidence at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, I feel like if you come out and you play well, if you're the Bills in the first quarter, you're going to get this team to question themselves again.
Yes.
And potentially run for the bus. And then the last thing I'll say too is it sounds stupid to say when you're 2-0, but this feels like a game the Bills really need because that 3-game stretch all on the road coming up against Baltimore, who might be playing for their season in prime time. But you got Baltimore at Houston, which is going to be a devil of a game. And then primetime Monday night at the New York Jets, 3-3. Everything's all roses right now, dude. We're talking Bill sample sizes and can they sustain all this and that? Look, that's fun, and they can. But you mess around, and you could be 3-3. Man, you can even be 2-4. You know what I mean? There's no guarantees. There's no guarantees, period, in this league. But maybe other than Jacksonville, who still does have talent, at least on paper, this is the 3 of the next 4 for the Bills. It's going to be brutal, man. So get this game under your belt because in even worst case, 3-3 after 6. And that's if they lose all 3 on the road. I'm not saying they're going to, and I don't expect them to.
Right.
I'm saying it's reasonable to conclude that could happen. This is a big game. You got to go. You got to get this game in Jacksonville at home, prime time.
Yeah, we've seen midseason slumps from the Bills, not usually starting in week 3 and 4. They're usually in like the October, November timeframe. So, I mean, obviously I don't want to get into that happening, but they do have the Titans, Seahawks, Dolphins, Colts after that. So you can see how this season could get very streaky very quickly.
As we get out of here now, again, because the games that, last week I had you on and the Bills played on Thursday night. So it was only the next night. So predictions felt fresh. We're not going to do that this week because the game's too far off. You got to get an injury report. But in your mind, envision something, one thing, some kind of like bold prediction. Doesn't have to be a score, who's going to win the game, but just something that you could see happening in this game. And I haven't asked you this. I'm coming up with this literally here in real time at the very end of this episode. But without giving me a prediction for the game or who's going to win, or I should say a score and who's going to win.
Right.
What's something you see in your mind playing out right now? I got something.
I've got one too. And, I poo-pooed the idea of Von Miller getting to 10 sacks this year and was kind of a little bit lukewarm even on the Greg Rousseau one. But I'll say that both of those guys get a sack in this game against Trevor Lawrence. I just think that the offense for Jacksonville, when they needed a 2-minute drive, they took a safety, with inside the 2-minute warning, so I just think that their offense is so kind of cluster screwed up right now that I'll say both. That's a bold prediction. You asked for bold. Greg Rousseau and Von Miller both get a sack in this game.
Okay, I'm going to tell you what. If Von Miller gets in a sack for a third straight game, you and I are going to be having a fun conversation here next week.
I just said that wasn't going to happen, but whatever.
I am. This is a Khalil Shakir game. This is going to be the game, everyone eats, and they're going to continue to do that. But there's going to be at some point a kind of a separation between who's the 1 and who's the 2 and the 3. I think it's going to start this week. This could be the game where Khalil Shakir has 7-8 catches for $120 and a touchdown. Okay. It's going to be a big coming out party on a national level on Monday Night Football for Khalil Shakir. So that's going to be my bold take for that.
I like it.
All right. Anyway, give Matt a follow on Twitter or X or whatever the hell you want to call it at Matt Rich Warren. Again, check out not just Buffalo Rumblings, but SB Nation, a great one-stop place for all things, not even just football, just sports.
It's true.
Area, man. Appreciate your time, buddy.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys, and I will be back. I did it right this time, even though I taped him first. Mike Harrington, Buffalo Sabres preview coming up on the show tomorrow.